Hi, good afternoon. This is Meredith Lego, and welcome to my channel. My channel is on Ascension Science, which talks about the expansion of consciousness. And a lot of the material I'm able to basically receive or download from extra dimensional or interdimensional beings, and sometimes from my higher self. And actually, this week it's a couple days before Christmas. So first of all, I just want to say Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays to everybody out there who happens to be watching this. I hope everybody has an absolutely wonderful time with their family and with their friends and experiencing the joy and love that we do have in this world. So first wanted to start off by saying that. Today I'm going to be sharing wasn't so much as of a message as it was sort of a series of clairvoyant data information that I was sort of pushed, if you will, and or I pulled in. I guess it's hard to tell these days, but I want to back off by saying that oftentimes when I am meditating in the morning, I have the experience of seeing different. I see the field. It's almost like I see the quantum field. And for a long time, probably the last year or so, when I've been meditating early in the morning, I've been seeing certain things, but I didn't connect the dots on what that was until this morning. So I wanted to share it. So sometimes I will see what looks like vertical lines, very, very high, expansive vertical lines. And I hate to say it, but it almost looks like barcodes, if you will, but they're colorful. And it's almost like I'm seeing an image of different frequencies and they're vertical. And so, when I see it, oftentimes, I am associating it. It's kind of like this knowingness that I have that it's associated with the vertical axitonial line that kind of runs up and down our inner chakra system, if you will. So we have many, many, many chakras beyond just the seven, but it's this line of energy that's sort of running through our physical body, basically. And so it kind of can look like this. So I tried to create an image of what it looks like, but it's very colorful, and it's somewhat vibrating. Like each line is somewhat vibrating, and it's somewhat harmonic. That's it. Those are the best words I can use to describe it. Okay. So sometimes I see this, but sometimes I actually see it horizontally too. So I'm seeing basically the same color frequencies. You can almost see the lines vibrating ever so slightly at a distance. I guess when you get up closer, because I can kind of pull myself back or bring forward, you can almost see them also sort of vibrating. So you'll see it like this. And this correlates to the fact that not only do we have vertical energy, we have a vertical energy line or a hara line, axitonial line that kind of runs through our core, up our kind of central nervous system, not central nervous system, but like our spine. We also do have energy horizontal lines that sort of run through our body this way as well, okay? And so I saw that, okay? But what the information that I got basically is that when we are on one particular timeline, okay, so I'm probably going to reference a couple of videos in the description that talks about timeline and how you can jump timelines, okay, and how that happens. But when we're on a particular timeline and we're ascending our consciousness, so again, ascending dimensions, if you will. So ascending our consciousness, when we do that, we ascend dimensions. So we're ascending we're increasing or decreasing, I guess you could say, our frequency, which is our tone, our musical tone that we're sort of emanating out into the field. So when we kind of ascend or descend across the tones, we're sort of going up and down, lines. So we will have a certain location and time. Let's just take one of the lines. We'll have a certain location and time, and we will ascend to other dimensions of consciousness or possibly descend to other dimensions of consciousness. Okay, so that can all be happening. Now, the other download that I got is that we also have the ability to sort of move across, basically move across to parallel timelines, if you will. So while we've got a timeline playing out, and I've shown this in previous videos, we also have the ability to sort of jump onto other timelines, if you will. So you could like have a now moment, if you will. You could like have a now moment, and in the next intention and action, you can continue doing the same thing, or you can literally jump into a different sort of parallel timeline, if you will. Things could be slightly the same or slightly different under that scenario. So when we're sort of in one timeline, ascending and descending consciousness, it's following this vertical energy channel. When we start to actually go into parallel timelines, if you will, we're actually start to maneuver like on a time, but we're kind of going parallel. So we could be in the one consciousness dimension, if you will, but we could be jumping over to different like different versions of ourselves in different parallel realities, if you will. Okay. Now, at the same time, it gets even more complex with the image that I was shown, in the sense that these two things essentially intersect together. So you've got, vertical channels or vertical, they're kind of like channels. It's almost like you're tuning in, your consciousness is tuning in. And it reminded me very much almost like of the lines in a radio station. Your consciousness can be tuning into different frequencies, if you will. So you've got the vertical channels and you've got the horizontal channels, right? And your consciousness essentially can also maneuver horizontally, right? So I meant to say diagonally. So your consciousness can move diagonally. So let's say, and I'm going to kind of draw this out. Let's say you're at one space-time vector, if you will, like you're right here. You have the ability of not just traveling up in your consciousness in this one life, right? This one life. You can, go this way, right? You can go this way, if you will, to another parallel version of your consciousness. So that could be, let's say, you in the same body, but in a parallel reality. It could be you in another body, if you will, that's kind of within the consciousness group that your oversoul is part of, or your monad is part of. But at the same time, you can go this way too. So you could be jumping consciousness up in frequency to another parallel time, or parallel, even form or body that your consciousness, could be connected into. Of course, you can probably go down too. I mean, all these possibilities are, could be happening. And then you can come back to your, your original, I guess you could say, singular lifetime, but just at a higher frequency. So there's all these directions that you could be going on the quote unquote harmonic grid, if you will. And so that's, I think, with the information that I got, is that our consciousness could constantly be doing this. So it's like we're putting our consciousness into a frame, or, a now frame moment in time, right? So it's kind of like, it's almost like what I've described in previous videos. You've got like an old movie reel, if you will. Like if you remember the old movie reels in which the film strip was, bound around, and it would kind of run through each frame. So your consciousness is sort of just plopping into a different frame in time, right? So these are different space-time vectors, and that's essentially what we're doing. But it was interesting that I saw the vertical lines and the horizontal lines, and then the diagonal lines that allow us to kind of maneuver, as we're kind of maneuvering through time. So this was happening in meditation. So I think somehow that's an interesting way of sort of traveling, quote unquote, traveling the grid, only I was seeing the mechanics of how it was happening. Now, this is going to be a little bit, it could be a little jarring for some individuals, but I'm just going to say it, okay? And it does have to do, honestly, with the holiday that a lot of Christians celebrate right now. So I actually grew up very agnostic, if you would say. I wasn't necessarily tied into any one religion, but I always kind of had the sense that there was something bigger than all of us in this world. So the message that I got is that so again, if this may not be for you, if it doesn't resonate, that's fine. Just leave it behind. But the message that I essentially received is that if you kind of think about the cross that Jesus, I guess, is crucified on, it very much looks like, one of these grid lines. And essentially, the message that I got is that he was hammered down, if you will. So he was locked in, and therefore locked much of humanity into a specific time point, right? So it was almost like there was an intentional energy that was there to try and sort of lock humanity and human consciousness into a specific space-time vector, if you will, a certain specific type of consciousness frequency, and plop it here, right? So so that I guess you could say humanity would sort of, I don't know, somehow be locked into a certain frequency, and it was more of a frequency of fear, so that the ability of sort of migrating or traversing around this grid became less possible. So anyway, that was the particular information that I received this morning, and it connected a lot of dots for me, honestly. And it's interesting that this message, or the connection of these dots, actually occurs right around the holidays here. But yeah, so essentially it helped me understand, certainly every time I was meditating and starting to sort of sometimes, I'll go out of body and I'll sort of be able to go into different space times, I guess you could say, or literally travel through time. So, I'm seeing the mechanics of how this is playing out. So your sort of consciousness. So when you're sort of meditating, when you're sort of out of body, you don't have a form. You have no form. Your consciousness, and you're sort of maneuvering across the field. So you could be, let's say, maneuvering, within your current body, and I guess we could be just doing that in normal life. But then you could be maneuvering into a parallel Earth, if you will, either at the same consciousness frequency and or a higher or lower consciousness frequency. So that could be when you're going diagonally. But anyway, it's the mechanics of sort of how it works in the field and where your consciousness is sort of traveling, if you will. But then also know that I think the message here is not allowing yourself to be locked into a specific vector. Okay. So we have the ability of transversing this whole thing. I mean, we have such amazing technology within our multidimensional framework. And I think that knowledge has been lost. At least even the understanding of that was lost on many humans. And I hate to say it was somewhat intentional, but we do have the ability to do this. We were, for thousands of years, sort of, trapped within one particular understanding of really what this is, and sort of unfortunately locked in. I think there's been intentions to try and lock us into a certain frequency. So again, when I saw the field, it was very much a very colorful, almost you could see the sine waves going of the frequencies, but very colorful, almost like a harmonic, if you will, like a harmonic frequency. And yeah, there was just, you could tell that there's been this like intention to try and lock us into like one vector, and that's it, so that our consciousness doesn't have the ability of understanding how it can kind of float around. So anyway, wanted to share that. I know it's a little bit sort of chaotic in terms of my message here, but I thought that was pretty interesting. Give me a lot of insight, not only about like the not even geometrics that I was seeing, but more of the grid lines that I've been seeing when I've been meditating. And now that I know what it is, I can basically understand how it is that I can sort of travel the grid with consciousness, and essentially either sort of migrate up in consciousness within this one version of Earth, this one timeline, and or sort of switch into parallel versions. So with that, I'm going to have to explore more of how this can be useful to all of us to figure out like how to do this intentionally. It probably goes back to some of the messages that I've gotten, which is sort of set your intention and make sure that your sort of emotional frequency sort of matches your intention. It's probably going to go to that, but I think this might be sort of the mechanics of what's going on behind the scenes. So with that, again, I wish you the absolute best love and joy in this holiday season, wherever you are across the world. And, hope that everybody, has an absolutely wonderful 2024. Thanks, and I love you. Bye.